Bishop Shelby, thank you, sir, for opening your doors to this fine church to allow us to celebrate the life and legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Mayor Coleman, distinguished dignitaries, council members, faith leaders, military servicemen and women, past and present, educators, community servants, and every soul in this room that chose to brave the winter snow advisory to join us this morning. You chose to be here. You didn't come because you had to. You chose to be here because you too believe that the mission and dream of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. is not yet fulfilled. It's not yet finished. Mayor Coleman, congratulations on your recent inauguration as mayor of the city of Westland. Mayor, we understand that your work is beginning as mayor, and we understand that Dr. King's work started as a young man. He was not able to finish or see the completion of what he started. But like Dr. King, Dr. Coleman, you too have the courage to take the city to the next level, and we are here to support you in doing that. The national theme of Mission Possible 2, building community, uniting a nation the nonviolent way. So I would like to take a moment to just break that down into some doable, actionable steps. I too believe that I have been on a journey that started as a mission somewhat impossible. My journey of going from failure to promise. And I believe that the notion of from failure to promise resonates today. As we read various headlines, as we overhear conversations, from time to time, we do see that perhaps there are some failures. Failures in systems, failures in ideologies, failures in principles. But on the other side of those failures, I too believe that there is some promise. So my story is simple. I was born with congenital cataracts. My family at the time did not have the financial resources to afford the necessary surgery to remove those cataracts. So by the age of 20, going on 21, I found myself legally blind. The generosity, though, of the Cyanide Grace Guild helped to cure my blindness. My mom was able to write a convincing letter to several organizations, Salvation Army, Focus Hope, but it was the Cyanide Grace Guild that answered the call, and the ophthalmologist did remove my cataracts pro bono. So when I talk about going from failure to promise, yes, the economic systems of that time or that era, the insurance systems of that time did not quite afford me the opportunity earlier to get those cataracts removed, but others stepped up. I understand going from blindness to vision. I understand going from brokenness to a breakthrough. So I carry a mantra that's very simple. One often has to do what they have to do in order to do what they want to do. However, if you only do what you want to do, you will never do what you have to do. Thank you. I'm going to do it one more time. One often has to do what they have to do in order to do what they want to do. However, if you only do what you want to do, then you will never do what you have to do. Dr. King did not want to go to jail 29 times, but he had to. Rosa Parks didn't want to be arrested on that bus, but she had to take a stand. The students who sat at lunch counters didn't want to be spat on and beaten, but they had to endure it for a cause. The path to promise oftentimes runs through sacrifice. There are no shortcuts to significance. And I believe that I know that what happened in my life can happen in our communities. It can happen in our nation and in our world. but it requires something that is in short supply today. Bishop Shelby noted it in his opening prayer. Mayor Coleman alluded to it, and it's courage. Courage without violence, conviction without hatred, and community without division. We often hear the need to be strong, and we hear about a strong man or a strong woman, or the need to exemplify strength. Dr. King was a strong man. Let's talk about what made Dr. King strong. It wasn't his fist. He never threw punches in retaliation. It wasn't a weapon. He never carried one. It wasn't even his voice alone, even though his voice shook the conscience of a nation. What made Dr. King strong was his discipline. The discipline to love people who hated him. The discipline to pray for people who wanted him dead. The discipline to keep marching when his feet were tired, when his family was threatened, and when his friends were falling. Dr. King often said, the ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in moments of comfort and convenience, but where he stands in times of challenge and controversy. Anybody can be peaceful when life is easy, right? You go to the Golden Corral after you leave Burning Bush International Ministries and there's no line, no waiting, right? We can be peaceful. But the moment we hear it's a 45-minute wait and we see some folks that come in and get in front of us, it's a little hard to keep your peace. But that's just a jovial moment, folks. True strength is revealed when you have every reason to strike back and you don't. Dr. King also said that darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. That's not soft. That's not weak. That's strong. That's steel wrapped in velvet. The toughest thing you ever do is to refuse to become what hurt you, or to become like those who hurt you. Dr. King mastered that, and he calls us to the same calling today. I can hear the echoes of 1968. There's a reason Dr. King's era still feels familiar. In 1968, our nation was fractured. We were at war abroad in Vietnam. We were at war at home, in our streets, our schools, and our institutions. Assassinations shook the country. Leaders fell, cities burned, and trust crumbled. And here we are. In 2026, Americans increasingly believe their fellow citizens on the other side of the aisle are not just wrong, but they're enemies. Research tells us that both parties, a high percentage of both political parties, view the opposing party as more immoral than other Americans. That's not disagreement, that's demonization. We, from time to time, scroll past each other. We shout over each other. We've stopped seeing each other from time to time as human beings. And when we stop seeing each other as brothers and sisters and people as people, we start seeing each other as problems. Problems that need to be eliminated rather than neighbors who need to be embraced and understood. Dr. King warned us, though. He warned us about this. Hate begets hate. Violence begets violence. Toughness begets a greater toughness. We must meet the forces of hate with the power of love, agape love, as noted earlier by one of our panelists. He also reminded us we must learn to live together as brothers or perish together as fools. That's not weakness. That's warfare of a different kind. The danger of vilification. Let me speak directly and clearly now. One of the most dangerous tactics in our era is vilification. The deliberate practice of turning a person or a group into a villain to justify mistreating them. Once you label someone a villain, you don't have to treat them like a human. Once you call or refer to a group of people as vermin, you've given yourself moral permission to do immoral things. Dr. King saw this in his day. Civil rights workers were called communists. Civil rights workers were referred to as agitators, outside troublemakers, anything to justify the violence unleashed against them. And we see it today. We vilify to justify, we dehumanize to rationalize. But here's the truth. The moment you strip someone of their humanity to excuse your cruelty, you lose a piece of your own. Dr. King put it this way: man must evolve for all human conflict, a method which rejects revenge, aggression, and retaliation. The foundation of such a method is love. We must refuse, absolutely refuse, to participate in the practice of making monsters out of men and women created in the image of God. Disagree? Yes. Debate? Absolutely. But vilify? Never. Liberty must be renewed. There's a truth that every generation must learn, often the hard way. Liberty doesn't have an expiration date, but it does require renewal. Freedom is not a trophy that you win once and place it on a shelf. It's a garden. Freedom is a garden that must be cultivated. The moment we stop watering and nurturing the garden of freedom, weeds take over. And the most dangerous weed is unchecked power. History teaches us without exception that when power goes unchecked, liberty is the first casualty. It happened in ancient empires. It happened in modern dictatorships. And it can happen here, in this nation we love, if we fall asleep at the wheel. Dr. King understood this. He said, freedom is never voluntarily given by the oppressor. It must be demanded by the oppressed. And he said the time is always right to do the right thing. We have a moral obligation, not a political preference, but a moral obligation to hold ourselves and our leaders accountable. When cruelty flows from high places, we cannot become numb to it. When corruption is normalized, we cannot shrug our shoulders. When lies are repeated so often that they start to sound like truth, we must be the ones who remember what actually truth sounds like. Dr. King warned, nothing in the world is more dangerous than sincere ignorance and conscientious stupidity. Westland, let's continue to stay informed and stay engaged, because the price of liberty is not just eternal vigilance, it's eternal participation. Now, the promise of America and the path to how to get there. Let's talk about something in our headlines as of recent: immigration. In Dr. King's era, people came to America from every corner of the earth seeking the promise of freedom, opportunity, and a better life for their children. In 2026, that same dream beats in the hearts of millions around the world. And I want to be clear, there's nothing wrong about wanting America. The nation, our nation, it has flaws. It has contradictions. It also has unfinished business. It still represents something extraordinary. A place where a kid from Detroit who flunked out of college became a professor at that very same college. A CEO of multiple companies. A devoted husband of a beautiful wife of over 25 years, a father of 4 boys, a TV host. A place where your last name doesn't determine your last chapter. A place where the dream is still possible. People are right to want that. But it's important, there must be an order in terms of how we seek immigration and how our brothers and sisters from around the globe seek immigration into our country. Dr. King was radical, sure, but he was a disciplined radical. He believed in justice. He also believed in process. He broke unjust laws, but he did so openly, lovingly, and a willingness to accept the consequences. He said, one who breaks an unjust law must do so openly, lovingly, and with a willingness to accept the penalty. That's not chaos. That's conviction with accountability. We can have compassion for those seeking a better life and insist that established processes are followed. We can secure our borders and treat every human being with dignity. We can enforce laws and advocate for those laws to be just. These are not contradictions. This is the hard work of democracy. What we cannot do, what we must never do, is use the complexity of the issue to justify cruelty. We cannot separate families as punishment. We cannot treat asylum seekers as animals. We cannot let frustration with the system become an excuse for inhumanity. Dr. King said the moral arc of the universe is long, but it bends toward justice. The arc bends because we, the people, make it bend through our policy, through our protest, through our persistent love, through our accountable and responsible behaviors, and most importantly, through our love for each other. The world is watching. Look beyond our borders. Sudan. The Sudan is in the grip of a devastating civil war, mass atrocities, millions displaced. Ukraine and Russia continue their deadly stalemate, striking each other's cities and infrastructure while the world watches. Haiti has descended into chaos. Armed groups controlling streets, government dysfunction paralyzing hope. The Middle East remains a power keg. Gaza, Yemen, tensions that span generations. And yet, some would have us believe that our problems are over here and their problems are over there. Dr. King knew better. He said, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. We are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. What happens in Minnesota, what happens in Westland, what happens in Detroit, it matters. What happens in Michigan, what happens in America, and across the globe, it's all connected. We cannot build community here while turning a blind eye to humanity in other places. King's nonviolence, the Kingian nonviolence principle, is yet today our blueprint. So how do we move forward? The King Center has given us the framework. It's called the Kingian nonviolence, and it's not passive. It's not weak. It's strong. It's not divisive. It unites. It's not silent, but it's strategic. It's strategically aggressive. It confronts injustice while refusing to destroy the opponent, but to show the opponent love. Let's share those 6 principles. The first principle of the Kingian nonviolence approach, principle 1, nonviolence is a way of life for courageous people. It takes more courage to face hatred without returning hatred than it does to strike back. Cowards retaliate, the brave reconcile. Principle 2, the beloved community is the framework for the future. We're not just fighting against something, we're building something together. We're building a world, a community, a nation that our offspring and the offspring of our offspring will inherit. A world where justice prevails and every person reaches their full human potential. Principle 3, attack forces of evil, not the persons doing evil. This is critical. The person who hurt you is not your enemy. The person who hurt you is not your enemy. The system, the impetus, the motives that conditioned them might be. The policy that oppresses might be. The ideology that divides might be. Focus our energies. Let's focus our energies on the root and not just the fruit. Principle 4, accepting suffering without retaliation for the sake of the cause. Redemptive suffering changes hearts. When the world sees you absorb blows without returning them, it exposes the injustice more powerfully than any punch ever could. Principle 5, avoid internal violence of the spirit as well as external physical violence. Watch our hearts. Watch our hearts. Bitterness will imprison us greater than any jail cell ever could. Resentment and anger and infuriation will blind us quicker than any disease. Let's guard our spirits fiercely as we guard our bodies. Principle 6, the universe is on the side of justice. Dr. King said the moral arc is long, but it bends toward justice. This is our hope. This is our anchor. This is why we don't give up after one setback, after one loss, after one clear example of failed systems. Because God and history are working on a timeline that we can't always see. Westland, Michigan is a city of promise. So let me bring this home. Westland, a city of 85,000 souls. The community is in Wayne County, the suburbs of Detroit, that has been called one of America's top 50 places to live, work, and play. Mayor Coleman, you're committed to safe neighborhoods, transparency, improved services, senior care, veteran support, and economic investment. That's not just rhetoric. That's the infrastructure of this beloved community. But infrastructure alone won't save us. We need each other. We need the schools. We need the churches. We need the neighborhoods. We need the families. We even need the corner stores. We need the businesses and the block clubs collaborating. We need our youngest generations as well as our elders to bridge that generational divide. We need the left. We need the right. We need the middle. In this room to shake hands, to embrace, not because we agree on every policy or every issue, but because we share the same human code. We share the right to preserve the dignity of ourselves and others. We drive up and down the same streets, whether they're plowed or not. We engage in the same public services, same zip codes, same grocery stores, and we have the same hopes for our children. Westland, you have what so many communities have lost. You have proximity, you have love. You still see your neighbors use that power. The nonviolent way forward, so what do we do tomorrow? When the decorations come down and the federal Dr. Martin Luther King holiday observance is over and some of the speeches fade, what must we do? Tomorrow, we'll look in our rearview mirror. And what then? We'll think back to our celebrations, our days of service. But what we will do, besides just looking back and reflecting, we'll realize that you can't fly alone. You cannot run alone. If you can't run, then walk. If you can't walk, then crawl. But whatever you do, keep moving forward. Here's our roadmap. Let's gather information about each other. Before we respond or post an angry comment on social media, before you forward a divisive meme, before you say, you gotta see this, ooh, this don't make no sense. Before you do that, let's do some research. Understand what's provoking the other side. Become an expert on your opponent's position. You cannot defeat what you don't understand. Step 2, after we gather information, let's stay educated. Share what you learned, not with ignorance, but with humility. Be like, I didn't know that. Teach your children, mentor a young person, host a conversation in your living room, in your workplace. The beloved community of Westland is built by one informed citizen at a time. 3, let's take personal commitment. Decide today that you will not add to the violence. You will not add to the divisive rhetoric, whether it's verbal, digital, physical, or spiritual. Commit to being a thermostat. Set it on 70 and forget it. Be the thermostat, not a thermometer. Set the temperature. Set the climate instead of reacting to it. Let's negotiate. When conflict arises, as it will, bring your views and your opponent's views to the table. Let's seek resolution. The goal isn't to win. The goal is to win them over. Direct action. When negotiations fail, peacefully, strategically, publicly, organize, vote, march, protest, but never, ever with violence. Reconciliation. This is the most common step that people skip. After the battle is over, let's celebrate together. Implement change with your former opponent, not over them, because yesterday's adversary can become tomorrow's ally if you leave the door open. A promise kept. I began telling you all about a promise I made to my mom once I got that cataract surgery. Upon her passing, she asked me to pay it forward. So we do that, right? Today, not only do we care for Detroit with our mobile eye care services, we're Eye Care for Michigan. We deliver vision to homebound residents in the city of Westland. We're committed to that work, committed to keeping a promise, and we're definitely focused on bridging the gap when it comes to what Dr. King called one of the largest forms of inequality, injustice in healthcare. It's the most shocking and inhumane. The quote haunts me, it drives me, it won't let me rest. The mission is not complete. I don't share my work or the work of our organizations to boast. I share it to say that the mission is possible. The steps that I prescribe today are also steps that I and my family and our community are committed to. Going from failure to promise, from blindness to vision, from Westland to the world, our story can be the same. The dream still lives. I'll leave you with this. The night before King was assassinated, Dr. King stood in Memphis and said, I've been to the mountaintop, and I've looked over, and I've seen the promised land. I may not get there with you, but I want you to know tonight that we as a people will get to the promised land. He didn't make it, but we're still on our journey. He made it to a better place. At every step we take in love, every hand we extend in reconciliation, every policy we change through peaceful persistence, every child we teach that violence is not the answer brings us closer. Dr. King also said, life's most persistent and urgent question, what are you doing for others? What are we doing, Westland? What are we doing, Michigan? What are we doing, America? The mission is not impossible. The mission is possible. Building community is possible. Uniting a nation is possible. The nonviolent way is the only way. Dr. King is not here, but the dream is still here. As long as we are breathing, we have work to do. Remember, one often has to do what they have to do. in order to do what they want to do. But if you only do what you want to do, you will never do what you